You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start with Nets Cavs. It's been a while since I've been that invested in a regular season NBA game. Durant and Kyrie's first game together? I don't know. I feel like I was more excited yesterday. Pierce and Garnett's first game as Nets? That would probably be it. I mean, it was funny. My dad came home at 8 o'clock last night. And he said, Jacob, I really want to watch the inauguration celebration that they're doing with Tom Hanks, Bruce Springsteen, and Sarah Fuller. I said, yeah, that's great. I want to watch Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving play together. So, that's not going to happen. But seeing how that game ended yesterday, I probably would have preferred to watch the inauguration celebration. I mean, I'm trying not to read too much into it. It's just one game. It's their first game together. They only had one practice. And they're going up against a solid Cavs team. If the season ended today, the Cavs are actually in the playoffs. They're the 6th seed. Give J.B. Bickerstaff a ton of credit for what he's done. But the simple fact is, that was a tough loss. The Nets were turning the ball over like crazy. They only had 16 turnovers. It felt like a lot more. Andre Drummond and Jared Allen killed the Nets on the inside. I've defended DeAndre Jordan a lot, but he did not play well yesterday defensively. Offensively, he had his best game of the season. Defensively, he was dreadful. Reggie Perry came in, wasn't much better defensively. Offensively, he didn't do much. He had 4 points and 4 rebounds in 10 minutes, but against guys like Drummond and Allen, that's not going to get the job done. Especially given how much the center is used in Cleveland's system. But I can't be too hard on Perry because he actually got points yesterday coming off the Nets bench. The Nets went 9 deep yesterday. The 4 guys to come off their bench: Perry, Joe Harris, TLC, and Bruce Brown. They all combined for just 10 points. They shot 4 for 24 from the field. TLC continues being incredibly streaky. I was a little surprised to see Landry Shamet get a DNP, but I'll give Nash a little bit of a pass. He's trying to figure out how to orchestrate his rotation on the fly. In actuality, the Nets had 3 backcourt players come off their bench yesterday and only 1 frontcourt player. They really didn't have much room for Shamet, but it is surprising that he didn't get in regardless. I mean, this was a weird game. The Nets start out shooting 10 for 10 from the field. It looks like they're going to run the Cavs out of the building. Then they go ice cold. The Cavs take the lead. And they basically never relinquish it. The Nets were able to tie the game up late in the fourth quarter. They come up with a big stop on Larry Nance Jr. on a 3-point try. James Harden with the vintage Harden step back 3. That's the shot you want. He bricks it. I mean, I gotta say this. Offensively, I thought James Harden had a really bad game. I understand he had a triple-double. It's weird to say that someone who had a triple-double had a bad game. But he just seemed unsure of his role on the offense. He was more of a distributor, not a scorer. There are some moments where it's like, okay, Harden, you've got to go. You're one of the best players in the NBA. Take over here. I don't want to see you pass this ball. But again, everyone's trying to learn on the fly how best to coexist. I'm not too upset. I'm really not. I am upset at the refs, though. The refs had a terrible game. You call a foul on Kyrie Irving when he's driving on Colin Sexton. This is with, 1.5 seconds left in regulation. Irving was getting ready to blow by Sexton. Once that happened, God only knows what would have happened. Kyrie gets called for an offensive foul. The call gets reversed. And then there's a jump ball at midcourt. Well, with less than 2 seconds left on the clock, that's not going to help anyone. I mean, they were calling everything last night. Let these guys play, my God. Unless it's egregious, that late in the game, swallow the whistle. The game goes into overtime. Jeff Green hits a big 3-pointer to give the Nets the lead. Everyone was talking about who was going to take the last shot. Kevin Durant, James Harden, or Kyrie Irving. The answer was Jeff Green. The Cavs play the foul game. And then somehow, Colin Sexton, working on Kyrie Irving, hits one of the biggest shots of his career so far. A 3-pointer to tie the game sends it to double overtime. People got on the Nets for not fouling there. Kyrie Irving played that as perfectly as you possibly could. That wasn't on the Nets. That was Colin Sexton coming up big and making a huge shot. I mean, people are mixed on that. Should you foul in that spot, or should you let the play develop? This isn't just talking about yesterday. This is any situation where you're up 3, not a lot of time on the clock. Is it better to foul, or is it better to trust your defense? I see it both ways. But I don't think that's relevant to what happened yesterday. Again, Kyrie Irving played it perfectly. Dennis Johnson couldn't have played it much better. So the game goes to double overtime. By this point, the Nets are gassed. You can see it. They're not hitting any shots. And then the young legs of the Cavs took over. Colin Sexton took over in double overtime. In double overtime, the Nets scored 8 points. In those 5 minutes, Colin Sexton scored 15. It didn't matter who was on him. Kyrie, Durant. It was raining threes. It's like he was playing NBA Jam and he was on fire. The guy couldn't miss. And that's how the Nets lost. The Big Three's first game together, they lost. I mean, there's another thing that needs to be mentioned. These guys played a lot of minutes. Durant and Harden played 50. Kyrie Irving, his first game back, plays 48 minutes. Jeff Green played 45. Joe Harris played 41. That was the death lineup. The Nets went small. They didn't trust DeAndre Jordan. I can't say I blame them. I mean, what was interesting to me was Joe Harris coming off the bench yesterday. Green got the start. I don't mind it. It was just surprising to me. I mean, I like my microwave three-point shooters to come off the bench anyway, but Harris is making a lot of money. But that's not why the Nets lost yesterday. The Nets lost because they're trying to learn on the fly how to best make this work. And it will work. But it's going to be a feeling out process. They've had very limited time together. Their communication isn't as good as it's going to get, both offensively and defensively. And again, they went up against a good Cavaliers team. A hungry Cavaliers team. A team that saw all the headlines the Nets were getting. The Cavs are in the playoffs right now. No one's talking about them. So guys like Sexton, Drummond, Nance, Cedi Osman, Damian Dotson, even the former Nets, Allen and Prince. It was their revenge game. Allen had a double-double off the bench. Prince dropped 17. They all said, why not us? Why aren't we getting the headlines? We want to get the headlines. The Cavs are in the headlines now. Give them credit. Look, would it have been better to start off this new era of Nets basketball with a win? There's no question. But it's going to take time. The Miami Heat, with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and a full offseason to work with, lost their first game together. No one remembers that. They lost to the Celtics, 88-80. There's a natural feeling out process that happens when you form these big threes. That year, the Heat started out 9-8. Eric Spoelstra was on the hot seat. People were saying that Pat Riley should come back and coach the team. Then the Heat went on a 12-game winning streak and all was forgotten. They ended up winning 21 games out of their next 22 after becoming 9-8. The more these guys spend time together, both on and off the court, the better they're going to look. Harden's going to grow more confident in shooting the ball. Their communication's going to improve defensively. Was it infuriating to watch them lose yesterday? Yeah, no question. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was overly concerned about it. The Nets have 56 more games to go. I promise you that they're going to finish with a winning record in those 56 games. They're definitely going to get into the playoffs. They're going to be a high seed in the playoffs. And they're going to go on a big run. I've said before, I think they're going to win the NBA title. I stand by that. There was another pretty interesting NBA game yesterday, and that was Magic Timberwolves. A game that the Magic had no business winning. They shot just 39% from the field, 32% from beyond the arc. They only scored 10 points in the second quarter. They were down by 20 at one point in the second quarter. They come back to beat the Timberwolves. And the way they beat the Timberwolves was really impressive. Magic have no timeouts left. They're running down the length of the floor with just over 3 seconds left. Cole Anthony has the ball. Ends up needing to heave a contested three. No one thinks it's going in. Somehow it goes in. For whatever it's worth, he hit the shot over Malik Beasley, who's had a very under-the-radar, really good season. The guy's averaging over 19 points a game. Shooting 43.5% from the field. 38% from beyond the arc. Beasley's got to be an early candidate for most improved player. But this is really all about Cole Anthony. While it was really sad to see Markelle Fultz go down with another injury, the guy has a torn ACL. It did open the door for Anthony, and look, you've got to give him credit. He stepped in and has done a pretty good job. Fultz got hurt on the 6th against the Cavs. Since then, Anthony has averaged 12 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game. For a rookie point guard who's been forced into starting duty, that's pretty good. And he just hit a huge shot. I don't care that it's against a dreadful Timberwolves team. That was a big moment for Cole Anthony. I give him all the credit in the world. He's done a good job of orchestrating this offense with Vujovic, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon. No one wanted him to be in this position to start and play a bunch of minutes his rookie season, but you know what? He's come in and has done a really good job. I like Anthony. I think he has a very bright future in this league. A team that doesn't have a bright future, though, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this has nothing to do with Karl Anthony Towns being out because he has the coronavirus. No, the Timberwolves stunk with Towns, and they've stunk without Towns. They are 3-10. They are by far and away the worst team in the Western Conference. And it's close as to whether they're worse than the Pistons. I mean, the reality is they only have two good players at this very moment. D'Angelo Russell and Beasley. Russell's doing his thing. He's averaging 21.5 points per game. 44% from the field, 41% from beyond the arc. He's fine. But he really doesn't have much help. Towns has only played in 4 games this year. The Timberwolves are 2-2 with him. That's not going to get the job done. Anthony Edwards came into the league, and his first 10 or so games, he looked really good, but he's gone cold as of late. Jarrett Culver hasn't had as much of an impact as you'd like. Jaden McDaniels hasn't had the impact that I thought he'd have. Josh Okogie hasn't had the impact that I thought he'd have. Look, I know they're short-handed. No Towns, no Rubio, no Juan Hernan Gomez, but there's only so much those guys can do. I mean, the Timberwolves stole the show at the deadline last year by trading for D'Angelo Russell. It really hasn't worked for him so far. And to make matters worse, they gave up their first-round pick this year. Now, it's top 3 protected, but if the Timberwolves use it in this coming NBA draft, the pick is unprotected in 2022. This core that the Timberwolves have really needs to put it all together quickly, or else they're going to be in for some tough sledding the next couple years. I'd be lying to you if I said I was optimistic about their future. Alright, now I'll give you some MLB Valk talk. And I have to apologize to you. Yesterday I said that Michael Brantley had signed with the Blue Jays. Now, as I was editing that show, it came out that it's not a done deal yet, but the sense that I got just from reading all the reports was that they're just waiting for a clean physical. It's going to happen, don't worry about it. Then, after the show was up for a couple hours, you see the news that Brantley re-signed with the Astros. So I do apologize for that. It's really not my fault. A bunch of very reputable MLB insiders said that Brantley was going to be a Blue Jay, but still, I gave you wrong information, and I feel bad about it. I am sorry. Brantley is going to go back to the Astros. That's a done deal. He signed a 2-year deal with his old team for $32 million. And the Astros are pairing him with Jason Castro, who just signed a 2-year deal with the Astros for $7 million. I mean, the one thing I'll say about this from the Blue Jays end of things is now this means they don't have to trade Rowdy Tellez. Yesterday I said that if they were going to bring in Springer and Brantley, they'd have to trade Tellez and either Randall Grichuk or Teoscar Hernandez. Now, it's just either trade Grichuk or Hernandez. I like Tellez. I think Tellez has a very bright future in this league. So it's a win-win situation. The Blue Jays don't have to move on from Tellez, and the Astros bring back a guy who they really needed to bring back. In Brantley's 2 years with the Astros, he's been sensational for him. Like I said yesterday, the guy has been underrated his whole career. He's the only guy in the CC Sabathia trade that worked out. Had some good years in Cleveland. Went to the Astros in 2019. He was an all-star. He hit .311 with 22 homers and 90 RBIs. Had a really good postseason. And then last year, he hit .300 with 5 home runs and 22 RBIs. And was somehow better in this past postseason. There's a reason that the Yankees were supposedly interested in bringing him in. $16 million a year is more than fair for Brantley. You don't want to lose a guy like him. He's going to fill a big role in the outfield for the Astros now that Springer's gone. He's going to make up for some of that lost production. Good job by the Astros in bringing him back. As for Castro, the Astros needed another catcher. I like Martin Maldonado. Good backup catcher. Great defensively. But the guy played 47 games last year for the Astros. That's not going to get the job done. The thing is, though, I don't know if Castro's going to be able to get the job done. It's been a long time since his All-Star season with the Astros once upon a time. In 2013, he had .276 with 18 homers and 56 RBIs. After that, he really fell off a cliff. Is Castro better offensively than Maldonado? The answer is yes. It's not even close. But just as you don't want Maldonado starting the bulk of your games, you don't want Castro starting the bulk of your games. I mean, truthfully, I was kind of surprised that I never saw the Astros linked to Real Muto. He'd make perfect sense for him. I don't know if they have the financial flexibility to sign him or not, but it would have made a ton of sense. The Astros really didn't do a good job here in filling their starting catcher role. I gotta be honest with you. If I was given the choice between starting Maldonado 100 times or starting Castro 100 times, I'd choose Maldonado. I'll take the great defense and subpar offense over average defense and subpar offense. Just because Castro's better than Maldonado offensively doesn't mean that he's Johnny Bench. I can't get on the contract too much. It's $3.5 million a year. But this is not a good job by the Astros. Then again, I'd be lying to you if I said I was choked up about it. Yeah, I still hate the Astros. Moving on now to the Twins signing J. Happ to a 1-year deal worth $8 million. And all I have to say is good riddance. I never liked J. Happ when he was in pinstripes. Look, when he first came over in 2018, he was perfect in the regular season. Then he folded like a cheap suit against the Red Sox. 2019, he was absolutely dreadful. Didn't even start a game in the playoffs. And then last year, he badmouths the Yankees, insinuates that they're not starting him because they don't want his option to vest. They're not starting you because you stink! Did the Yankees do Happ dirty with how he was used in Game 2 of the ALDS this year? No question. I didn't mind him speaking out against that. That was incredibly stupid. Speak out against that all you want. But don't say that the Yankees aren't starting you because they don't want your option to vest. That is a classless move. I'm glad the Yankees never seriously thought about bringing him back. Does he make sense for the Twins? The answer is yes. They did need to add another lefty. And I like the idea of a starting rotation of Jose Berrios, Randy Dobnak, Happ, Rich Hill, and Kenta Maeda. You can arrange that however you want if you're Rocco Baldelli. The move makes sense for the Twins. $8 million, I guess, is okay. I can't get too bent out of shape about it. I'm trying to put my personal bias out of it because I really hate J. Happ with a burning passion. There have been a lot of former Yankees that I've hated because of subpar performance. Guys like Kevin Brown, Jeff Weaver, Esteban Loaiza, Tanyan Sturtz, Jarrett Wright, Carl Pavano, Javier Vasquez. The list is really endless. Sidney Ponson also. Was Happ as bad as some of those guys? The answer is no, but he is in that category of former Yankees that I hate. Actually, it's kind of funny about Pavano. I've never told this story before. One time, I was in a suite at Yankee Stadium. A sports memorabilia company was doing a thing. They rented out a couple suites. They had some former Yankees over, guys like Jeff Nelson, Dwight Gooden, Ramiro Mendoza. It was really fun. But there was another former Yankee there. And I knew he was a former Yankee. I saw people lining up to get his autograph. I didn't recognize the face. So I went over with the ball and I said, "Excuse me, can you sign this?" He signed it. Nice guy. And he wrote his number, 45. My dad and I reconvene and we're comparing autographs, and he sees that I got an extra autograph. He asks me who that is. I told him I have no idea. So he said, "Well, his number was 45. Why don't you look it up? You can figure it out that way." So I looked it up, and I was able to make out a C and a P. It was Carl Pavano. He was sitting very close to me. The part of the suite that I was in just happened to be close to where he had set up shop. That was completely by accident. Like I said, I wouldn't know that was Carl Pavano if he came to my house and delivered me a pizza. So I'm apoplectic at this point. Like, there are very few people on this earth I hate more than Carl Pavano. Nice guy. Very nice guy. I think he was there with his son. Very nice guy. It's just, I have a lot of bad memories of Carl Pavano, and I couldn't share them because he's sitting right behind me. Yeah, I don't think I've ever told that story before. That's a funny story. I preferred it to be Garrett Cole. If it's a 45, have it be Garrett Cole, not Carl Pavano. I mean, let's see who wore 45 before Cole. I don't even remember. Oh yeah, that's right, Voit. Luke Voit. Hey, Voit would have been nice. Jason Shreve, Dean Anna, Austin Romine, Scott Sizemore, Zealous Wheeler. I mean, I'd have preferred all those guys to Pavano. Okay. On a more somber note, I know it's a hard left turn, but there's no other way to do it. I have to talk about Ted Thompson, whose death was announced today. He died yesterday at the age of 68. Ted Thompson helped build the great Aaron Rodgers Packers teams. Without him, the Packers don't win Super Bowl 45. They don't make the playoffs year after year after year. Did he have his issues? Yes. But the simple fact is, there's a reason that he's in the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. Thompson worked his way up through the front office of the Packers, ended up with the Seahawks. And then when Mike Sherman stepped down as Packers GM, they went with an old friend in Thompson. Immediately you saw how Thompson was going to run the Packers. He wasn't going to rely on overpriced veterans. Guys like Marco Rivera, Mike Wall, Darren Sharper, they were all gone. Thompson was going to build the Packers through smart moves in free agency and mostly the draft. And Thompson proved very quickly that he was a great drafter. With his first ever pick as Packers GM, he picked Aaron Rodgers, despite the fact that Brett Favre was still on the team. That's what Thompson did. He made controversial decisions. He didn't care if they were popular. He just cared if he thought they were right. More often than not, he was right. I mean, you don't have to look much further than how he replaced Sherman as head coach. He hired Mike McCarthy from the San Francisco 49ers. No one remembers this. McCarthy was hired after 1 year as 49ers offensive coordinator. Did he have some good years with the Saints before that? The answer is yes. But when he went to the Niners, that team was dreadful. They went 4-12. It was Alex Smith's rookie year. He was absolutely dreadful. The Niners had the worst offense in the league. There's no question about that. But Thompson hired their offensive coordinator as head coach. Say what you want about Mike McCarthy now, but the guy did get over 100 wins in Green Bay. He did win a Super Bowl with the Packers. He does get some credit. Thompson also had to navigate the transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. If you'll recall, Favre announced he was going to retire in March of 2008. Then after the draft, he decided he wanted to come back. The Packers said, no, we're rolling with Aaron Rodgers. We believe in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it got nasty. There's no question about that. There's a lot of mudslinging. Eventually, though, Thompson traded Favre to the Jets. Favre went 9-7. Lost 4 of his last 5 games. Led the league in interceptions. Not a fun season. Aaron Rodgers, meanwhile, became one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Threw for over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Yes, the Packers went 6-10, but not because of Rodgers. Now, I know I'm jumping around a lot. Believe me, I could go really in-depth on Ted Thompson, but we'll be here until the Super Bowl. So I'll fast forward to when things went south. Thompson had a philosophy that was very similar to George Young. I'm going to build through the draft. I don't care about anything in free agency. I am going to build through the draft. I mean, outside of Charles Woodson, Jeff Saturday, and Julius Peppers, Thompson really didn't make any big free agent signings. Towards the end of Thompson's time in Green Bay, people were screaming for Thompson to sign big free agents, give Aaron Rodgers some help. Give him a potent wide receiver core. It really didn't happen. I mean, Thompson was a great drafter. There's no question about that. Rodgers, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, B.J. Raji, Clay Matthews, Randall Cobb, HaHa Clinton Dix, Devontae Adams, Mason Crosby, Josh Sitton, T.J. Lang, Mike Daniels, David Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, Blake Martinez. Thompson drafted all those guys, but he never really went crazy in free agency. Even when the Packers had a ton of cap space, we're going to build through the draft. There is no question that after the Super Bowl, Thompson should have focused more on free agency. The Packers won the Super Bowl in the 2010 season. From 11 to 13, they only won one playoff game. In 11, they went 15-1. Odds-on Super Bowl favorites. Got blown out by the Giants in the divisional round. 2012, they beat the Vikings, gave up 45 points to the Niners. The year after, They go 8-7-1, win a bad NFC North, and narrowly lose to the Niners. Phil Dawson was the hero of that game for the Niners. Look, the reality is when you're a GM, you need to strike that balance between free agency and the draft. You can't expect to fill all your holes through free agency, and you can't expect to fill all your holes through the draft. You have to do a mix of the two. Thompson's undoing was that he was so gung-ho on building through the draft that he ended up putting Aaron Rodgers in positions where his teams were never good enough to get over the hump and make another Super Bowl. Could they do it on Sunday? Yes. There's no question. But the reality is, that's not Thompson's team anymore. That's Brian Gutekunst's team. While Ted Thompson does have a complicated legacy, he was the architect of a team that won a Super Bowl. He's in the Packers Hall of Fame. He was a really good GM. Did he make some mistakes? Yes. But nobody's perfect. It's kind of impressive. The last 4 GMs for the Packers have been Ron Wolf, Sherman, Thompson, and Gutekunst. You can't do much better than that. May Ted Thompson rest in peace. Tomorrow, I'm going to break down the conference championship games in the NFL and make my picks, along with breaking down anything else that happens in the sports world. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that opening day is like Christmas, except it's warmer.